That's not bad when he stood still. Hey guys, so I want to make a quick update on the single target update of this Lightning Spear build. It got a massive buff last night because of a new support gem. So we had a 0.2 patch last night, 0.2 E I believe. And yeah, new support gem. We have added a support gem called Inhibitor that prevents charges being consumed, but increases the damage of that supported skill by 4% for each subcharge you have. So what is a support gem, why is it good for this build, and why is it a massive buff? So here's a support gem in game, and the reason why this is massive for the build, it makes supported skills cannot consume charges. We don't care if they have more damage here, the more damage does not matter. The reason why this is important is because of barrage. The issue with barrage and why you didn't use barrage on this build before, why barrage was actually really bad on this build, was because if you had frenzy charges and you press barrage, it would consume your frenzies, and then when you press lightning spear or stormlance, they wouldn't have frenzies, so they won't get that big benefit from frenzies that you really want on these skills. So barrage was generally just bad last patch because you just couldn't use your stormlance or lightning spear or frenzies. But now there's new support, you can actually use barrage, and it's a massive single target increase for this build. So before, as you might know, I was using scatter shot on stormlance to get 3 procs of frenzies for 1 use. But now barrage is that same thing for stormlance and lightning spear, but it doesn't cost a support gem. So yeah, what do I mean by this? So whenever you're playing, and this is for both single target and clear, right? If you have any frenzy charge, you can just press barrage, you throw lightning spear, then all 3 lightning spears get empowered. Same deal for stormlance. So this is a massive damage increase for a single target. The single target, you usually only get 1 frenzy charge every 2 seconds, 2 of your procs, and you throw 1 stormlance, but now you get to throw 3 stormlance. It's like I said, it's an absolutely insane buff to already, probably the best build in the entire game. So yeah, if you're struggling on single target before, do try this new setup. Of course, I also do have this update on mobile analytics. All the builds got updated gem links, every single one. So starter, mid game, ESFH, and expensive end game. To talk about these setups real quick in this video. To only play this expensive endgame if you had Sacred Flame. A regular Scepter does not really compare to Sacred Flame. Sacred Flame is essentially 60% more damage, so a regular Scepter does not really compete. If you don't have this, to stick to the regular setup, it's still extremely strong. For reference, on this setup right here, this is what I use to clear all my pinnacles, the pinnacles I've done. For reference, I've done all of Expedition, all of Breach, all of Ritual, and I only did 2 Arbiters. I don't really focus on Arbiter because he didn't really do anything for mapping. But yeah, I did all my pinnacles on this setup right here. You do not need Sacred Flame to do these tier 4 pinnacles. It does of course give you a huge damage increase, but I didn't want to mention that in this video. And also I'll talk about Kitiko's Current. The only reason why you can drop Kitiko's Current in the expensive endgame setup is because we're using Hell to Thunder with Electrocute and Neural Overload. Now you can do this on the more butter setups like the starter and mid game. The reason why I prefer Kitiko's is because it's way more consistent for frenzy charges. And if you don't have frenzy charges, the build feels really bad in my opinion. So I still recommend to use these gloves when you're on a way lower budget setup, because if you don't have the damage to electrocute with Hell to Thunder, your frenzy generation is just going to be really poor in maps. So I still prefer these gloves for early endgame, but if you want to use the Hell to Thunder setup with Neural Overload and electrocute, this is how I'm generating frenzies in maps, you can give it a try. Personally, I still prefer the gloves for the lower budget setups, but yeah, this is also kind of only works because I'm also using Cast on Crit Sniper's Mark, Impetus, and Inspiration. Now you cannot use Cast on Crit on low budget setups without giving a lot of ores. So once again, I did not recommend it, but you can use it on pinnacles. So do check down below as well. I have the full explanation of how you play this build, how it plays right here now, and also a Cast on Crit pinnacle boss swap. So for pinnacles, because of how pinnacle bosses are, you can drop your Roa gem and your Combat Frenzy gem all described right here, saying on a Cast on Crit swap for pinnacle bosses. If you need that extra damage, once again, for pinnacle bosses, I didn't even do this Cast on Crit setup, and I still did all of them to tier 4. But yeah, if you do want extra damage, try this Cast on Crit setup for bosses, because I do know a lot of people have been struggling on pinnacle content, because yeah, this build is extremely good for clear speed, but it's not the best for pinnacle bosses. It's still decent enough. I just saw in a clip earlier, I have around 2 million damage, actually more than 2 million damage because I didn't even curse the boss. I should be around 2.4 million to 2.5 million DPS, which is quite strong in 0.2. There are a few builds at a higher course, but that is really good for 0.2 standards. I also have an optional setup for more boss damage, so a weapon swap with Evitrio Cruelty. This is a new unique in this patch. Critical hits with spells apply 5 stacks of critical weakness. I got this from Jungron. Very strong for weapon swap. Essentially all you do, you have Orbit Storms in your weapon swap 2. So make sure this is enabled 2 and not a 1. and you just press Orbit Storms, you just go back to using your Storm Lance, and it'll just proc, and every time it crits, it'll apply critical weakness to the boss, which is a bonus critical strike chance for you. Yeah, that's another thing you can do for more boss damage if you do need it. But yeah, I do hope this video helps. Once again, the barrage is insanely strong. Do use this. The mobile links down below is updated. And once again, to use barrage, just make sure you have a frenzy before you press it. And your frenzy before you press it, all 3 Stormlands, all 3 Lightning Spear will be frenzy empowered. So it's, like I said, it's very, very strong. Anyway, that's about it. If you have questions, feel free to comment below.